And what's up, everybody, guys and girls, everybody in the internet world, universe, whatever you want to call it? Welcome, welcome, one and all, to Geeks with Wives and Capes, episode 106. Ooh, man, we're pretty old, man. We hit our centennial, and we're flying by it, aren't we, buddy? We're excited to be here tonight. As always, I am your hostess with the mostest, Mr. Darth Sparrow, and I'm excited to be here with our guest. And of course, I have one solitary, awesome co-host this evening with me this evening. Apparently, everybody's having technical issues this evening, but I have none other joining us this evening, the man who always brings up the IQ level on the show, Mr. Agasicles Thomas. How are you, buddy?
Boom!
There it is. What's going on, man? So for the maybe our listeners who don't know, you got promoted in our fine company. What are you doing now?
I'm helping Casey out with editing comics. Editing
Which
the comic section.
which I'm sure sounds like is a very fun job for you, eh?
Yeah, it should be good. It should be good. Should be a good time. Should be good.
So lots of work and writing and they give the smart guys like you that job because I suck at editing and stuff.
Yeah. I've got to finish moving before I really get engaged on that big time. But yeah, I'll be helping out in that section
Awesome, man.
as well as continuing to edit technology reviews whenever we put them up.
Sure. So I gotta ask you for those people that are watching, you've got this really interesting looking blue cloud thing behind you. What is that?
Idea. I'm holed up at a buddy's house
Yeah.
while my house is being made ready. So
That's your buddy's blue cloud.
yeah, that's something in here in the guest room. I haven't really chosen to ask a lot of questions about it.
Gotcha. It's just don't ask. You're like, all right, cool. Just using the computer here. I know how that goes, man. Well, I'm glad to have you back, man. It's exciting because if you weren't here tonight, I'd be all by my onesies with David. So, without further ado, let's welcome our awesome guest tonight. You know what? We're big on the indie comics over here at the Capes Crew. I mean, of course, we all love our superheroes and our Iron Mans and our Batmans and all that other good stuff. But it's all those other things that make the comic world so amazing, so diverse. Is when we get those really cool, awesome, really creative, original ideas. And we are joined tonight by one such gentleman who's going to talk to us about his Kickstarter campaign for one of those really cool ideas. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. David Golding. David, how are you, man?
I'm fine, thanks. I'm great. Thank you. Yeah, how are you?
We are awesome, man. We're excited to have you. I was talking to David before the show started, and I think he wins the award for this guest. Now, we have Everett who comes on every once in a while who's from Sweden, but David, tell our listeners where you're talking to us from today.
I'm in the UK, and I live in York, which is, if you imagine the map of the UK, smack bang in the centre. And it's it's a beautiful city. Yeah.
And it's also like 5 o'clock right now where you're at in the morning.
It's now 4:10. Yeah,
wow.
It's 4:10. So if I do yawn, it's not because I'm
not because we're boring.
It's because you're boring. Yeah, it's
you just have a good excuse to hide it now. You're like, I'm tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, I really appreciate you having me on the show. I'm really happy. Thank you.
Of course, man. We're excited to have you. We love talking comics, especially new stuff. So before we get into your book tonight, tell us a little bit about the history of David, your origin story, so to speak. Like, how did you get into comics? Tell us the goods, man. Give us the skinny.
Yeah, no problem. Well, bizarrely, the only job I've ever wanted to do ever was draw comics. I've just loved them since I was about, I don't know, 3, 4, and it's just the only thing I wanted to do. And then I went through the usual things of going to art college and stuff like that. But I always told it was not a proper medium and not a proper art form, and it's hard to get in the business.
Back in the day, a lot of people felt that way, right?
Yeah. And then so I was just kind of playing at it, and then in 2006, I really thought, no, I'm gonna go for this. I'm gonna do this. So I really knuckled down.
Yeah.
And it just took off from there. And then I ended up doing some small indie work for some comic companies over here, and then I got work with the BBC doing some stuff for some of their kids shows, designing creatures and monsters and stuff.
Oh,
And
that's
then
cool.
and then I eventually got into doing design work for movies and TV and storyboarding. That's what you kind of do that in comics. Sometimes you kind of trip into doing TV and movie stuff because
Sure.
they're kind of so related. But
Yeah.
my main goal and passion has always been comic books. So the
Right.
last couple of years I've kind of swung back into that and really gone for that full bore.
Exactly. What were some of your early comic book passions or things that really moved you in the comic world from an early age? Like what kind of characters were you into, or what books that really inspired you?
Well, the really early ones I very distinctly remember was the UK reprints of Spider-Man.
Okay.
And I mean, I used to, before I could even read, I'd just look at the pictures and make up, the words to the stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then Superman, and then of course when I got a bit older, over here in the UK we've got Judge Dredd and 2000 AD.
Sure.
And then it was artists like Brian Bolland, who then obviously went on to do lots of covers at DC and did The Killing Joke and stuff. He was a big Judge Dredd artist, and such a refined and detailed artist. And he was the first one that really got me fired up and got me really wanting to be an artist myself.
Yeah.
So David, let me ask you. So are you a creatures and monsters guy? And I ask that question from the perspective of that is a very particular. It's not a niche, but it's a particular skill. Like there are definitely guys who do like creatures and monsters like better. I think it's one of those standout characteristics of artists in comics. Is that kind of the stripe you paint yourself with?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean my favorite movies are always creature flicks and monster movies, and my favorite movie of all time is American Werewolf in London, and
Yeah. Nice.
I just love monsters and stuff. So even it's quite easy for me to. I've always drawn monsters because there's a kind of freedom to a creature. You can just slap on tentacles and those are testicles.
Hey, you can slap on testicles too. That would make for a really interesting monster, man.
It's Quadrifox for. Oh dear. There's a Freudian slip for you.
There you go.
So
and horns and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So can you talk us through a little bit? And Will, I'm sorry, I know I'm jumping around in
That's
the
okay,
origin story. I'm kind of all over the place tonight.
Sure.
Shucking and jiving, juking and moving.
Ooh, it's getting wild, actually.
Hey, can you talk us a little bit through the creative process for drawing a new creature or monster? Because I think it's distinctly different than mimicking human form. Do you kind of start with like a general? Well, I want this one to be like an upright, or I want this one to be like a 20-foot tall creature, or I want this one to kind of be a low level, like on all fours creature, or how does that come out?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my ideas come from if I'm just. Best thing for me to do is really just sit down and just put pencil to paper and see what starts to come out, really. I usually kind of start with a face,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of gives you a general feeling of where you're going. So you could be, say a more demonic face, or, so that kind of leads to the overall design flow of the character kind of thing. So if you're going nasty and evil, obviously horns and spikes and teeth
Sure.
and fangs and blood and stuff, that all naturally comes to that. But it's you've got to try and bring something new to it, which can be quite hard at times. So there's a lot of kind of refining processes. So I kind of do 3 or 4 sketches. If I was designing something for a specific comic and I knew it had to be seen, I'd go through a few different takes of a character. But if I do like to just sit down and just draw some crazy shit and see what comes out. And
Sure.
that can be the most fun.
So that was something I was going to ask. As you mentioned that it's slightly different when you're drawing something for like a specific comic. So do you do, like in your portfolio, do you do a lot of just like freewheeling, like just kind of creating a back catalog of creature and monster designs that when a writer comes along with a story, you say, oh, I've got something that I think will fit this, and let me do like a riff on it based on the story. Or
Yeah, well, funnily enough, I've got folders full of for years, folders full of creatures and monsters and aliens and superheroes and all that kind of stuff. And I have brought it up a couple of times when I've been working on a project, and they say, "Oh, we need a so and so creature." And I go, "Funnily enough, I've got folders full of it." And bizarrely, on all occasions, they've gone, "Oh yeah, we're not interested. If you can do something new."
Yeah.
So they don't want they don't want to see your old stuff, or they don't want to see any
Right.
they want to see your new stuff. So that can be a bit okay. But then I end up usually drawing something that's kind of based on something I've done before anyway. So it kind of works out. Yeah.
What what would you say in your mind is like just I want to get your opinion because being a creature guy, what would you say is like one of the scariest creatures that you've ever seen in a comic or on screen? Like what's just like one of those full on like you feel like scared would scare a kid shitless kind of monsters? What would you say?
Oh wow! Well, I'll tell you what scares me.
Okay.
And I still have dreams. As a 41-year-old man, I still have dreams. I'm waking up going, oh shit, that was scary.
Yeah.
It's the big creatures that you can't get away from. That scares me. So it's I have recurring dreams about the T-Rex from Jurassic Park.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's just so big and freaking scary. It's like fast.
Yeah.
I have bizarrely RoboCop 2. RoboCop 2.
Yeah.
Because again, it's so big and fast and scary. If you remember that that robot.
Oh yeah, the one that the drug dealer was made into, right?
Yeah, Nuke. Yeah, Kane and Nuke. Yeah, that's a classic. So for me, it's the big things, and I mean, obviously, Jaws terrified me as a kid. It probably terrified everybody, and it's that out of your element kind of thing that really scares me.
Right.
You can't get away from it. It's just that kind of thing. So I mean, I love zombies and all that kind of stuff, but you can get away from them, the slow, unless they're the fast kinds.
Yeah, I always find those scary, the non-shambling zombies, or even like the regular zombies. Just how it's it's not the zombie that gets you. It's the numbers, and it's not using your space in your environment very well.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, have you had a lot of opportunity to collaborate with American creators and/or if you have, can you contrast just kind of how the comics creative scene in America is different than that in Britain, or if you haven't, can you just kind of characterize how would you sum up, working in comics in Britain as an industry, or even just like the comic scene for fans in the UK? Because I think there are some definite cultural differences in kind of the approach that's taken in the UK versus the US.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of there is a massive comic scene over here in the UK, but it's mostly American comics. I mean, we've got the big comic stores over here and chains, and we can get every title, and it comes out on Wednesday, same day as you guys get it. But it's still pretty much looked at. I think. I mean, it's still looked at as a kids thing. I think by the majority of people, it's still looked at as a kids thing. So the actual British comic scene, although there's lots of great independent indie companies and stuff, the kind of mainstream is still very much DC and Marvel reprints, and also you still get 2000 AD and Judge Dredd, which is still going strong. But the majority of comics over here, if you go to, say, a supermarket where you can get the British comics, they've all got big water pistols stuck to the front, or they've got some toy or something like that. So that's the kind of selling thing. Yeah. So it's a little bit depressing, really. But if you go to comic conventions over here and comic cons, the independent scene is fantastic. There's some great talent. But the American scene, the difference between working for, I haven't really noticed a difference, to be honest. It's still, the passion's there on both sides, and the creative process is pretty much the same.
Okay. I also want to ask now, because a large part of what our site covers is also cosplay.
Yeah, yeah.
Is cosplay a big thing in the UK at comic
Oh,
conventions, or?
oh God, yeah, yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a comic convention at Sheffield Arena, which is just a big arena, and yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, it was just from little kids dressed up as frozen characters to full-on Frankenstein monsters, and also just I don't know manga,
Yeah,
but there's just tons of manga people.
yeah.
I know Naruto. I know that kind of stuff just by looking at it. So that's the big thing over here as well. People with spiky hair and 10 foot
Swords and guns.
papier-mâché swords and guns. Yeah, and all like yeah, yeah. It's just as big over here. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So speaking of independent comics, let's talk about your project while you're here tonight.
Yeah.
You've got a
Cool.
Kickstarter going on for what I think is a really cool concept for a book. And
Thank you.
just for our listeners, I'll give you my take. It's like if you took Starship Troopers, but instead of having the trooper guys, you threw in like the Avengers.
Yeah,
you got the Walking Dead going on. That's what you got in your book, which is called Infested Earth. Tell our listeners about the concept of your book and how it came about.
Yeah, how it came about is, I mean, I'm working on I've got so many projects in my head.
Yeah.
I'm working with a writer friend who's very talented, and we're bouncing ideas backwards and forwards about comics. And he couldn't work with me on this comic that we were going to do. So then I thought, well, I've got to fill the time, really. I want to do something. And I've been knocking around this idea of, I mean, I love superheroes, but I also kind of like survival horror movies, like zombie movies and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I thought, superheroes and zombies has been done to death.
Right.
So I just mulling around ideas, and then I came up with this idea for Infested Earth, and it's a 4-issue miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
This Kickstarter's for issue 1, and it's basically a story about the end of the Earth. Really, it's set 1 year after an insectoid alien invasion has wiped out practically all life on Earth. There's nothing left.
Right.
And it starts off. We follow the story with a black female character called Iron Bell, and she's from an alternate Earth. Mm-hmm. And at the start, she's sucked through a portal with a bank truck and 2 inept villains who are trying to rob it. It slams into a building and goes cascading down the street. And when she finally comes to her senses, she realizes she's not in Kansas anymore, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's just this devastated, ravaged world. And we kind of follow her story. She eventually meets a ragtag group of superheroes, the last remaining superheroes are left, who are kind of survived due to either the fantastic skills or the kind of invulnerable a bit. So even though they're still alive, they feel like they shouldn't be alive. They don't feel worthy to be, they failed the human race kind of thing. So they all kind of get together and they kind of make one last bid for freedom, really. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind of basic overall gist. But yeah, it's and it was funny. I didn't actually sit down and think, right, I'm going to take A and add B and so Avengers, Starship Troopers, Walking Dead. But when it actually came together, I looked at it and went, actually, yeah, it's Avengers, Starship Troopers, and Walking Dead. And that was completely unintentional. So I am trying to not make it too much that. But if you're doing an elevator pitch, that's what it would be.
For sure. What made you decide to go with an insectoid alien rather than like maybe your typical gray big round head alien, or maybe like the more scary spiky alien like what you see in like Galaxy Quest? What made you decide on the insectoid alien?
It was a couple of things, really. It was basically because insects and bugs creep me out. They're just horrible. They're just and I have said a couple of times, everybody hates spiders and insects. That's not true. There's people that love that weird stuff. But to me, that just freaks me the hell out. So I thought, well, instantly that's gonna people.
Something that struck a chord with you then.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people kind of feel the same way.
Sure.
Don't want to generalize. So they will instantly see the comic and go, well, there's an alien invasion. Oh, the bugs. Oh, as well. So that kind of plays to the fear kind of aspect and the creepiness of it.
Of course.
And also, it was trying to come up with something that hasn't been done that much. It has been obviously Starship Troopers and things like Eight-Legged Freaks and stuff like that.
Right.
But it also, with the insect world and spiders and all that kind of thing, you can really go to town with the designs. The creepy, the hunched over. You can, they're just weird looking, and I can really sink my teeth into that kind of stuff.
Right.
Now, as you were coming up with this idea, has there been any point where you shied away from the artistic challenge of rendering insects? I've seen a couple of panels and maybe a cover or some rendering, but you have panels with like very large numbers of very small insects
to
draw. I have to imagine that's a significant workload to manage just to get through a handful of panels.
Yeah, I did think what have I done? I have made a rod for my own back. But the cover you're speaking of, where there's like thousands of insects kind of about to crawl into a superhero's mouth and finally do them in. That's the insects. The creatures that are in it are a bit more bigger than that, so they kind of range from dog size right up to Godzilla size. The huge, because basically it's kind of the insects from different worlds have kind of, I don't want to spoil it, but so it'd be like, say, the spiders from Mars kind of thing, and spiders from Earth and spiders from Zeta 2 Reticuli or whatever kind of. So there's all kinds of creatures in there, so I can really play around with it. But it's gonna be it's a lot of fun, and I've actually got into the swing of drawing thousands of insects really. So, and as well the backgrounds, the destroyed cities as well. There's lots of rubble and there's lots of busted buildings and all that kind of stuff. So it does make it a bit more. It's in a weird way, it looks like it's harder to draw, but it's not, because there's a kind of freedom, there's a looseness to it that I can add a girder there, put a girder there, and I can add an extra limb there kind of thing. So it all kind of builds up to look like it's quite complex, but it's quite easy to draw, I find anyway.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about the destroyed city backgrounds? Because I've always been curious about that artistic process also. Does the story take place in the UK? And if so, did you spend like nights on a rooftop? Did you draw skylines of the city as it was and then kind of deconstruct it into the destroyed city, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, well, it's set. I wanted to, obviously, because it's superheroes and the superhero genre is an American creation. For me, it would kind of feel a bit odd to not set it in an American city. So it's a made up American city, but for reference-wise, I've got thousands of images of cities, and I just, I googled the Blitz, during World War II when London got bombed and stuff. So there's some fantastic references, there. It's so it's quite easy to get good reference and stuff like that. So that was quite easy.
Yeah, definitely. What I really like about this your idea is the cast of superheroes that you have in this book. So I wanna ask you some questions, or maybe if you can give like a brief rundown of the characters that I'm looking at on your Kickstarter campaign. So
yeah, no problem.
First one I see is Venator. Tell us about that guy.
Well, it's he looks kind of at the if you kind of look at him, he kind of looks a bit like a Superman pastiche, but he's really not. He's kind of like the main male lead. Gotcha. And he's kind of very, on the surface of it, he's kind of still chipper and bright, and we can get through this, and we can save the human race kind of thing. We can pull this back, but there's a very much an underlining darkness to him. There's something under the surface that isn't quite right. And I think Iron Bell, when she first meets him, kind of sees this and realizes it, so isn't completely trusting of him. And there's a few others on the. They're not an actual superhero team, so it's not like the X-Men survived and they still function as a team.
Right.
The last few kind of ragtag superheroes. So there's so they're not really like the Justice Squadron or anything like that.
Right.
They just happen to be the last heroes to survive.
Yeah.
Now, is Venator the guy in the blue and white costume with the hood?
No, that one is Skylord, and he's my love letter to. I love the Vision and Martian Manhunter.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, and he's kind of in that similar role in that he's the kind of emotional, calming heart of the team. He's an alien,
Right.
and he can transform into any flying creature from Earth and from his own planet as well. So that gives me an opportunity to do some really cool flying alien, kind of pterodactyl kind of things as well.
Battles and things.
Yeah.
Sold.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
You just called out my two favorite characters in both Marvel and DC, which is the Vision and Martian Manhunter.
Yeah. Oh, they're great. Yeah. So he's my love letter to them.
That's awesome. And okay, so you have this female character, and not only is she drawn like very nice looking, but she's full on like steampunk inspired. Tell us about that character.
Yeah, well, I just love steampunk. It's just fantastic. And when you were talking about cosplay earlier as well.
Yeah, right.
I've never really wanted to do cosplay myself, but the thing that kind of tempts me every now and again when I go to con is the steampunk stuff, because it just looks so cool.
Yeah.
And as I was putting it all together, I mean, it was nothing more than, holy shit, I've got to put a steampunk character in this.
Right.
Because I'd never really drawn one before, and so I just came up with, she's called Clockwork Clara.
Yeah.
And again, she's from another Earth as well. The kind of portals kind of play into the story.
Right.
And she's from a steampunk world, but she's obviously come there before. So
her outfit's just really cool. Her weapon is really cool. She's got like this cool like crystal. What do you call it? The crystal cutter sword.
The crystal cutter sword. Yeah. And again, it was an amalgamation of. And I had another character as well that had this big wide crystal sword. And as I was playing around with characters and stuff, I went, let's stick those two together. So I actually gave her the sword, and then gave the sword a kind of clockwork cog feel to it as well.
Sure.
So that kind of really came together quite nice. So she's one of my favorite designs.
What I really love is you really kind of touched on all, like, I guess we could say the superhero archetypes. Like, we've got your very Superman-esque guys. We've got your very like off the wall superhero, the unbustable balloon boy.
Yeah, well, do you know, I love that character, and my writer friend hates him, absolutely hates him. I was sharing the concepts and bouncing ideas back and forth, and he's just going, dude, get rid of that character. That character sucks. I said, no, you've got to understand. There's a few reasons for him. It's like I wanted the character kind of like a Plastic Man-y kind of character, something a bit like Rocket Raccoon that's a bit crazy, a bit weird.
Yeah, because I imagine with the contrast of this very like in ruins world where everything's very desolate, there's giant creatures and bugs everywhere. You've got this like cartoon balloon guy that doesn't look like he fits in the thing, but I think that adds a really cool element to the story.
Yeah, and another thing is everything's sharp in this world.
Right.
The buildings are sharp, the creatures are sharp, and there's this big balloon boy. So that's why I put the unbustable balloon boy.
Sure.
He is kind of unbustable. But also there's another reason why I came up with him, and I thought, that's great. It's because I am drawing thousands of bugs, and the backgrounds are so ridiculously detailed that it is kind of nice to have a character that's going to be stood in the background that's just a big kind of balloon man. quite easy to draw.
Yeah.
So
Where did you were you at like a kid's birthday party and there was a guy doing balloon sculptures, and is that where that where that
no,
idea comes through?
it was just I was just thinking of really what would be a really kind of dumb
Yeah.
superhero, and I was thinking along the lines of Plastic Man, who isn't a dumb superhero, but he's kind of a weird idea, and then Rocket Raccoon, and
Right.
and Howard the Duck, and I was thinking I wanted something kind of like that.
I need my Howard the Duck.
yeah, and I was just the Unbustable Balloon Boy. And then he doesn't actually speak in the story at all. He's mute.
Okay.
But I am trying to think of the sound effect, how I would write the sound effect of
that squeaky balloon sound. Yeah, it's
that kind of thing. I don't know how you write that. So
yeah.
I'm working on that. That's a big thing to get over. So yeah.
It's like insert squeaky balloon sound here.
Yeah. So I just imagined, as this serious debates are going on about how they're going to get from A to B and how they're going to, and there's just a big,
exactly,
fat balloon guy in the background.
So, one of the other characters that really intrigues me, because my father is a huge fan of westerns, especially like the really old cheesy westerns.
Yeah.
is you've got the spectral cowboy, and right off the bat he just looks really cool. He's like this really cool, ghostly, like skeleton cowboy.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. His power is basically a human form. He's in the cowboy getup, but his great grandfather was murdered in the Old West.
Okay.
And his kind of spirit went into the guns.
Yeah.
And he's kind of inherited the guns down the line. So when he actually picks up the guns and holsters the guns and goes to shoot them, he actually transforms into this kind of spectral form. He's got the skull face. Yeah. And he's actually, why he's survived is because when he's in the spectral form, he's kind of intangible. Okay. So the bugs just can't get to him. Yeah. So there is a danger that when he's not got his guns out, he is vulnerable. Okay. And the guns never run out of bullets. So I just thought the image of a ghost cowboy endlessly shooting bugs and blowing them away was quite cool.
Yeah, I know.
So that was, yeah.
So I know you may not, be able to answer this question. So if something you're not ready to talk about with regards to the book, by all means, just say so, and we'll move past it. In the vein of The Walking Dead, in how just about every character except for, I would say, the big three is potentially perishable. Should we expect that potentially characters we might become attached to might not survive the 4-issue miniseries?
Absolutely, definitely. There's going to be a lot of death in this series. That's one of the things I wanted, and one of the things about when I watch a horror movie or something, say like Alien, which is an amazing, it's a classic movie. Sure. But the thing that bothers me about Alien is there's only 5 characters in it. Mm-hmm. So that once Ash gets the alien out of him, that's 4 characters. So it's like, I've only got 4 characters to die horribly. I know that sounds a bit grim. It's like, oh, okay. But right. I really kind of, so in this series there's actually 15 superheroes that starts out, and through the whole series there's only going to be a few of them left. So yeah, there's going to be some tragic losses.
Right.
But so it's coming up with interesting superhero deaths. And when these superheroes die, that's it, they're dead.
Yeah. Okay. Nobody's coming back. Sorry.
Nobody's coming back. That's all.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Just real quick, so I'm gonna name off some of the other superheroes that you have on your Kickstarter. There's a Neon Vampire. Yeah. We have, of course, Iron Bell. We have a pregnant superhero, Captain Starstone. That's pretty awesome. Yeah,
she's kind of the defunct leader of the group, and her powers. She's kind of keeping them in check. She can't really use her powers because of a pregnancy is causing children have got. She's pregnant with twins, and the children have got powers as well. So it's actually causing her powers to become quite chaotic. So she's not actually in the field. She's kind of hanging back, and she kind of feels bad about that because things she can't control it herself.
Right, and then of course we have it just really intrigues me, and I love Mega Awesome Battle Girl. So it couldn't fit that on the shirt, so we just got Mab Girl, which I love.
Yeah, Mega Awesome Battle Girl is she's an 8-year-old, so
right.
and she picked her own name.
Of course.
So that's why she's called Mega Awesome Battle Girl. But and her costume is very she's made it herself, so she's wearing Wellington boots and she's just got a t-shirt with a cape sewn to it kind of thing. Yeah. But she's kind of the partner of Balloon Boy.
Okay.
And they kind of go around together, and they kind of there's some they've got some quite nice touching moments together. So I can't wait for people to read that. But actually, my favorite character that I really enjoyed drawing is Neon Vampire, and he's my love letter to Razor from the Green Lanterns animated series.
Okay.
Because I just loved Razor and the design of that, so he's kind of a love letter to that as well.
I really love the look of his suit and how his chest almost looks like another set of teeth.
Yeah, that's and actually he's not a bit about him. He's not actually a vampire as we know it. He's actually an alien, so with vampire characteristics.
Right. Very, very cool, man. I love the.
No, thank you.
Now, something I find interesting, and we can use this to segue into the next thing I was going to ask you is, Kickstarter is all about the rewards that people get for pledging to your project, and I noticed that the only thing we really know about the heroes, their superhero names, and we don't know their real names. And could you tell our listeners why that is?
Yeah, well, for one of the rewards, you can name the alter ego of the character. Yeah. And as well, that's going to be the name that's mostly used throughout the series, because obviously there's no they don't need to keep their alter egos secret. There's a couple that still will have the secrets and they don't want to give it up. But basically, so the majority of the time they will be called, Steve rather than,
right.
whatever. So I thought that'd be a cool thing for an actual backer to name the character. Hopefully, and I said, I'll go with whatever they say. Hopefully, they won't pick too ridiculous a name, really.
But hopefully, they don't pull like that episode in Friends where they wanted to change their name. She's like, "I'm going to change my name to Crap Bag."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We hope we don't get a crap bag on there or something.
Yeah, I don't think so. I would hope that. Yeah.
I think that's the cool, and what I really think is even extra cool is, in order to get that reward, it's not a ridiculous amount of money. It's very reasonable to get a comic book character named after you in your book.
Yeah, I think so. That's what I wanted it to be, quite attainable to if somebody wanted to do that. I mean, when you look at some of the other Kickstarters, and they kind of do a similar thing. Some of the prices seem to be quite high, and I just thought, no, it'd be quite a cool thing to, to have a backer do that, and and it's doing quite well so far.
Do you guys think do you think my fiance would appreciate that as a wedding gift? Look, honey, I named a comic book character after you.
You can try it. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can
exactly.
Try it. Yeah.
What other kinds of rewards are you offering on your Kickstarter project?
Yeah, well, I'm starting off as a PDF file. You'll get a email to you, and then there's physical copies. There's also with it just the basic physical printed copy, you get a certificate of authenticity, and you also get a sketch of a bug, a card, a trading card. So everybody that buys the book will get a piece of original artwork, and then it goes up to, I'm actually drawing the pages. They're going to be quite widescreen. Right. There's going to be 3 to 4 to 5 tiers per page, and I'm actually drawing the tiers on separate pieces of Bristol board, so then I can offer more artwork as rewards as well. So there's like 65 pieces of original artwork from the book that I can give to as rewards. Then it goes up to, there's variant covers, of course.
Yeah.
And then it goes right up to naming the character, and then there's an opening sequence to kind of prelude sequence to the actual start of the story, and you can be in that opening sequence. There's 4 places for that, where it's a bunch of comic book fans in a comic book shop in this world where there's superheroes talking about the comic books that are coming out about
Sure.
the heroes that are in the real world. So you can actually be one of the 3 comic book fans or the comic book clerk in the store.
Yeah, awesome, man. So Kickstarter, look for Infested Earth by David Golding. David, also tell our listeners where they can find you on the web and on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm at David Golding Art. I'm more of a Twitter guy than a Facebook guy, but I do have a Facebook presence. There's a Facebook page for it. And so that's the main thing. Yeah, and obviously it's on Kickstarter. Just put in Infested Earth, and it'll come straight up.
God, that's so cool, man.
Thank you.
I'm sure your book is gonna get funded, because I mean you still got 31 days and you're almost halfway there. So
Yeah. It's really, I'm really blown away by the reception it's got, because you never kind of know these things. You see you see the numbers on Kickstarter, and some of the comics that they do are just wow. How did it get that much? So you just never really know. And I've been advertising it on Twitter and sending out flyers to comic stores over here, and obviously very kindly you've brought me onto your show to talk about it. So word of mouth is really important, but I just really didn't know how well it was going to do, and it's doing really well. So I'm quite happy and blown away by the reception it's got.
Well, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about your book, because it sounds amazing, and we always love talking to comic artists and writers about the really cool projects. So thank you, man.
No, thank you. Really appreciate it. And like I said, I'm a big fan of the show.
We will hopefully get to have you back on once the book gets made.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, for
Hey,
sure,
David,
man.
and any plans right now for that book to be available as a digital?
Yeah. It's gonna. I'm gonna do. It's available as a PDF, as a download.
So, still there? You still there, David? Did we lose you?
No, that was Casey who dropped out.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, David, thank you so much, man. We're gonna talk some news. You want to stick around and talk a little news and comics with us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome, man. Before we move on to our Week in Geek, our regularly scheduled Week in Geek, we have something special. We are helping out with a giveaway. So for your chance to win 3-day passes to the New York Comic Con, we are helping to take part in the Pete's Basement Comic Book Podcast Scavenger Hunt. That's a lot of stuff going on there. All right, so the way it works here is we're about to give you a trivia question. What you're going to do is go to petesbasement.com/NYCC_giveaway. petesbasement.com/NYCC_giveaway. What you're going to do is fill in your answer on the entry form, and if you're correct, that gets you 5 entries to win 2 3-day passes to New York Comic Con, which unfortunately is one of the big cons in the U.S. that I have yet to go to. So hopefully one of you awesome listeners gets to win this. So on the form, you're going to see links to all the other podcasts that are participating. You're going to click the links and listen to each podcast to find another trivia question worth 5 more entries to win the NYCC tickets. The contest is over on September 17th. No purchase necessary. Terms and conditions apply. Go to petesbasement.com for details. All that being said, all the the legal stuff our lawyers make us say. And now your trivia question. All right, everybody ready for the trivia question? Trivia question is: who took over Peter Parker's brain to become the Superior Spider-Man? Who took over Peter Parker's brain to become the Superior Spider-Man? And David, being a Spider-Man fellow, I'm sure knows the answer to this, and we definitely know Casey knows the answer to this. But anyways, if you know the answer, follow the rules, go enter that. Good luck to everybody. The winner will be announced live on Pete's Basement's Periscope broadcast on September 17th at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. So, good luck to everybody. God, I hope somebody who really wants to go to this thing gets to win it. Don't you? Do you, buddy? I want to go. Probably can't win now, but whatever. Anyways, good luck to everybody. So, That being said, it's time for everybody's favorite weekly segment, our Week in Geek, where we talk the latest in what we all read, watched, or enjoyed in the beautiful geek universe. So, of course, I've been talking enough. I'll let my awesome co-host, Mr. Agaskles Thomas, go first. What have you been doing in your Week in Geek, buddy?
So I have not been on a Geeks with Wives podcast for a bit while I've been moving. So
Sure.
a bit of a backlog to run through. So
Yeah.
so when you want to call time on me, Will, call time and force me to move on to comics if I take too long.
All right.
So I definitely got some comics I want to talk about. So
Here. How about we'll give you 5 minutes. Go with
Okay.
5 minutes.
all right, so real quick, we'll start off as I always like to do with a little bit of tech and hardware. So
Sure.
couple new phones in the place. Number one, the Asus Zenfone 2.
Mhm.
That's just my case that I have on it now. So this phone is $399 off contract, 5.5-inch screen, 1080p display, 64 gigabytes of storage. Works on GSM carriers right now. I have it on AT&T Pay-Go plan. Has a 64-bit Intel Atom processor, and it runs great. So 64 gigs of storage and expandable by another 64 gigs, I think.
Oh, wow.
And then this is my current number one phone that I just recently got. This is the ZTE Axon Pro.
Okay.
So similar specs to the Zenfone 2. This phone is $449, also off contract. Again, I also have it on AT&T right now. This is a 5.5-inch display, QH or I think QHD, but it's a 2560 by 1440, so it's an extremely high resolution display.
Right.
Qualcomm 810 processor, so that's the top of the line Qualcomm processor right now. That processor had had a bad rep for overheating. I've had I've had no such problems with this phone. Hold on a second, I got a little frog in my throat.
Yeah, for sure, man. It happens. That's what happens when you're talking comics and geek stuff, man.
Okay, so 32 gigs onboard storage, not expandable, but also a great phone.
Yeah.
And I can't show them, but I've also recently picked up an Alienware Alpha, which is Alienware's small form factor gaming PC. That's what I'm using as my number one gaming PC now. And also picked up a CyberPower PC FangBook 3, which is my new gaming laptop. So movies, wow. I've been to see The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Fantastic Four. Unfortunately, you can check out our spoiler cast, our Geeks with Wives spoiler cast, where Jonathan Reyes and fellow comics book writer Brad Bell covered that movie, and our review is up on the site.
Right.
And I also went to see Hitman 47.
What did you think about Hitman 47?
It's a bit unfair. It was okay. It was not a good movie. It wasn't a great movie, but
Yeah.
I was coming off action-wise. You know, the most recent action-oriented, I guess, comic book or video game movie I'd seen was Fantastic Four. So,
Right.
so I appreciated Hitman 47 for the moments in the movie that were good.
Yeah.
In comparison to Fantastic Four.
Right.
TV-wise, just as I moved out of my old house and came to set up my temporary shop here,
Yeah.
I finished binge watching The Flash season 1.
Okay.
Got my buddy and his wife motivated to watch the season, so I turned right back around and started rewatching season 1 with them.
Right.
We just finished the mid-season finale tonight, so. Unfortunately, they'll be doing the second half of the season without me, but it was really awesome to rewatch that right after binge watching the whole season. And then I'm also continuing to try and trudge through season 1 of Constantine,
Okay.
which I like. Very glad to hear that Matt Ryan, who I believe is he from the UK, David? Do you know?
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not sure where though, but yeah, I believe so.
Yep. So he will be reprising his role on season 4 of Arrow, so I was very glad to hear about that. And then I finished, while I've been here, I finished watching season 1 of the BBC's Robin Hood, which I am also a huge fan of. So comics.
Comics. Yeah, give me some comics.
So far this week, I gotta pull up the iPad here. But so far this week, so the first thing I read was Hank Johnson, Agent of Hydra, #1,
Yeah.
from the creative team of David Mandel and Michael Walsh. I'm not familiar with either one of those two creators, but this story it's very much written in the vein of Secret Avengers and Hawkeye. The artwork is also in kind of similar fashion. And it's a deconstructionist kind of take on the Marvel universe. This time featuring a nondescript member of Hydra, and they completely I don't know if there's a word for this, but they completely cast him in kind of a realistic everyday Joe who's just a member of Hydra. So he has a wife, he has 2 kids, and the first issue is hilarious. One of the try and find it real quick. So one of my favorite sequences of panels is when he is you can't really see it well on the iPad here because of the glare, but is having an argument with his wife, and his wife is saying that they need a nanny to help take care of the kids, and so she says Shayna and Scott have a nanny, and he goes, well, Scott works for AIM. And she says, maybe you should work for AIM. He said, Becky, I'm not working for those AIM holes. I don't want to have this argument again. So, it's just, they go to a funeral, and MODOK is preaching the sermon, and everybody there is in black suits, but they all have green ties. Nick Fury invades their base and knocks him out, but then kills his buddy who are standing guard. And so when that buddy gets killed, a spot opens up in the tech shop.
Yeah.
So he applies for the job and gets it, and then he winds up being sexually harassed by his boss, who he later finds out is married. One of his neighbors is an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and they have a completely regular neighborly relationship. But then that neighbor goes behind his back and snakes tickets to, I think, a Knicks game that his buddy in Hydra was going to take him to. Mm-hmm. So he gets angry at that guy. So it's just really hilarious. The Avengers show up, and it's just really hilarious. It's the best thing I've read so far. Casey and I in chat have been talking recently, and I complained about how this whole Secret Wars Battle World stuff has just completely eradicated any notion that I had of a regular monthly pull list. This is something that I am going to add to my pull list. It's not written in the Secret Wars Battle World continuity, which is good. And I'm just going to see how it goes. I did like it. The one thing else, I guess the one negative I have about it, it's a bit, it's a sketch kind of book. It's based on this singular comedic take, and again, it's very similar to Secret Avengers and Hawkeye. So I just think, I think it's going to peter out. At some point, I just don't think they can keep that up. At least not and hold my interest.
Right.
And then I also read Big Trouble in Little China by Boom Studios. Surprisingly, I don't think he was on the book originally. I thought Cullen Bunn was, maybe, but Fred Van Lente is writing it now with art by Joe Eisma. I was glad to see Joe Eisma's art. I think originally Brian Chirilla was on this, and I like Chirilla's art, but in Big Trouble in Little China, it got a little too cartoony at times. And the big problem with the script was that they were just rehashing a lot of his one-liners from the movie.
Yeah.
Or things in that vein. I liked this for the change, but it still just didn't do a lot for me.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I got a chance to read before the show was Cyborg #2, which overall, if I had to give it a review score, it would only be a 7. So it's not that high, but I really like Ivan Rice's art in it. He's one of the few guys right now that's purely doing pencils, and then he has inkers go over it. and a separate colorist. 3 inkers on this book, which I would normally say would lead to problems, but the book is really well drawn. I really like what they're doing with Cyborg. A little bit of out of continuity stuff, just because one of the things is he's still going through this kind of surprise and wonder at the way his body has been transformed, and his tech is new, where he can kind of create any weapon on the fly. But I thought that had already occurred in Convergence or some other event, so it's like they've reset it, which of course is what they're all doing now, which is what's frustrating me. But I did like this issue. It's kind of just a setup issue, so not a lot goes on. It's really kind of poising things for a big battle and a big conflict and a mystery to be unveiled. But it was definitely solid work, and like I said, I give big pluses to Ivan Reis's art. A lot of people, and I've been guilty of this, kind of were hot on him, but then have grown cold because it's very much the style that DC is trying to have reflected in all their books now. But when I opened this up, I hadn't seen Ivan Reis art in a while, but it's a very comforting artistic approach because it's very familiar, but it's still very solid and very good work.
Cool. Awesome, buddy. Thank you, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. You're always working on cool stuff with the tech and everything too. It's exciting. I'll go through my stuff real quick because there's a couple little news points I just want to discuss with the gents here this evening. But first thing on my list this week was my favorite lady of the DC universe, Harley Quinn. I love the very Brady Bunch cover on issue number 19. If you're watching, if you're listening, there's your typical 9 blue squares with the different character in each one. So the cover of this one has the Harley gang and their villain, who I basically sum up as Popeye on steroids. He's like a sea captain. He's got the sea captain hat, the pipe, and everything. He gained these super strength and a terrible anger problem from this alien seaweed that he ate. I don't remember exactly where the alien seaweed came from. I had to go back and read it. But anyways, he in the last issue he captured some of the Harley gang that was investigating. He was actually a missing person. His wife was trying to find him, so they found him, and they found a little more than they could handle. So it's up to Harley to save the day and get them out of harm's way. It gets really weird. Popeye on steroids eventually becomes stripper Popeye on steroids and a thong. It's really weird. So this one was a little too madcap crazy Harley Quinn for me this week. It was just a little bit much, but that's pretty much what this whole comic is, just crazy Harley stuff with her crazy life, and now she has her own gang of Harley Quinn superheroes, so pretty wild. it always breaks up the monotony of the superheroes in the series. So Harley Quinn's Harley Quinn. I love her anyways. She's pretty, she's fun to look at. She's my comic crush. Also, I missed it last week, but I picked it up this week. Star Wars number 8. We're continuing on, of course, with the last issue. Han and Leia were in search of a new location for the Rebel base, and they were met up by a woman claiming to be Han Solo's wife. I was hoping in this issue we'd actually find out what the deal with that is. But we go through this whole issue and we still don't find out. I'm like, did they really get married? Was this some kind of just arranged thing? The whole just arranged to get him out of a pickle kind of thing. We still don't know. But all we know is now she thinks she's gonna use Han to help sell Princess Leia to the Empire for money. And of course, as always, Princess Leia proves she's not your typical damsel in distress, little weak princess. She's got some moves of her own, and ends up getting out of that situation. So
who's on that book for writing and art?
Jason Aaron is the writer. Stuart Emonen is the artist, and Wade von Grawbadger is the inker.
So Casey's theory, when these books kicked off, was that and they all launched with the top talent from Marvel, all their franchise players were on these books.
Right. And
Casey's theory, which was what I also ascribed to, was that
they're going to leave pretty soon.
Yeah, they would be on for the first 6 issues to help sell the trade.
Sure.
And then they would roll off. Do you have any? And I know I can't remember exactly who's on it, but I know Darth Vader is well beyond the 6th issue now, and top talent is still on that book. What's your theory on what's going on at Marvel, and how these top talent writers and artists are still on these books. Do you expect that to continue, or what are your thoughts?
it's hard to expect that they're gonna leave those top people there because I'm sure they want those top people to work on other projects. But I don't know. I think the fact that these books are selling so much is what's helping maybe Marvel keep them there for a little bit longer. You know what I mean? Because these books are selling a lot. I mean, I'm sure it's way more successful in Marvel than a lot of these books were under Dark Horse. So
Right, right.
it's killing it. It's killing it as far as Star Wars book goes in the comic book. So
Do,
I really love the writing of both of the people that are writing Star Wars and Darth Vader. So I really hope they stay as long as possible. But I mean, of course, as those things go, people always they change things here and there, and so
right.
I don't know,
do,
man.
do, do you think they're going to stay on those books until the movie releases and then they're going to pull them off?
I think so. I think a lot of it is really to kind of reestablish what's the canon now in the Star Wars universe, since they said basically all that expanded universe stuff it kind of doesn't really matter anymore. They have a whole new canon set up under the Disney thing, but I think really they're gonna really hard establish all that stuff, and then they're kind of just gonna kind of let it go once it's all established and the movie comes out. I think right now, as people are really interested in the movie, they got these big people to get people really interested in the comic books and really get people comfortable with the fact that it left Dark Horse and is now with Marvel. So, like you said, I think once the movie hits and kind of everybody's on that high, they're going to kind of slip in some new people, and I guess maybe it won't be as noticeable as it is right now. You know what I mean?
Okay, all right, cool, cool
Yeah.
beans.
The last thing I read was this uber giant sized extra sized 50th anniversary extravaganza of Shield. So man, I guess 50 years of Shield comics now, which is really cool, man. Did you get a chance to read this one, Gascalise? Are you reading Shield at all?
I have not. Is that a trade?
No, this is just the
Just a
monthly
regular
issue.
issue?
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
Okay. No, no,
They're
no, no, I did not read that.
It's really fun. It's kind of like one of those like almost like each issue is just its own little mission. So it's not like it doesn't seem like you really have to read them all to kind of be to understand where it's at. It's kind of each thing is its own little like case file almost. This big issue celebrating the 50th anniversary, of course, had the first part of it was part of the regular story, and it had some really interesting stuff that I mean I don't know comics as well as maybe you and Casey do, so some of it I was like, has that been revealed before? Like, when did they reveal that African American Nick Fury is the son of Caucasian Nick Fury? Like, is that something like new in this book, or is it
I think
established?
I think that's a thing. I think that's a piece of canon that's been there since that.
Okay.
Because my understanding was, well, I think originally that Nick Fury was the ultimate. That the Samuel
Yeah.
L. Jackson kind of
Right.
Nick Fury was the ultimate Nick Fury.
Sure.
And then I think at some point they bridged the continuity that he was the son.
Son of the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in this one they're calling him junior and senior since both of them are in this issue, and they spoiler alert. I'm gonna drop some spoilers right here. There's a scenario with a gentleman who is called Death. It's an acronym, and he apparently is some kind of being that's been able to travel through time and is actually responsible for helping establish Shield. And Shield apparently is not just the product of the Cold War. It's actually almost like like a secret society that's been around since the days of the pharaohs in some capacity, and has moved down through generations, through different people, through different like important people like Galileo, and they threw pharaohs names in there, and Apocalypse and Moon Knight were involved way back in the early days. So Shield is actually a lot bigger than supposedly we really thought. It wasn't just this spy society. So they kind of give you a little bit of insight into the history of Shield, and of course they leave it on a big cliffhanger, so we don't know if it's really true, if it's just some crazy guy like shouting things off in his brain, whatever. But hopefully we find out. This kind of had three issues. They give us I guess a prequel to the Howling Commandos book that'll be coming out in October, which is done by our good friend of the show, Frank Barberi, and that comic is going to be really cool if it's anything like what they put in this book. Because in this book they, of course, established the whole fact that Dugan, Dum Dum Dugan, is actually now a life model decoy of the original Dum Dum Dugan, and kind of already dealing with how the fact that he knows he's not the real Dugan, and why did they bring him back? So
I hate LMDs.
you hate the whole
I hate LMDs.
David, what do you think
It is-
about LMDs?
Yeah, it's a very easy plot device, isn't it? To do
Exactly.
just how many Doom bots are we?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate easy MacGuffin,
Yeah.
and I don't want to foist any negative, aspirations on
Sure.
the writers, but it just feels like this shtick in this trope that you just reach for
Yeah.
to 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 mechanize a plot twist or a
Sure.
setup.
Yeah. I think with the fact that this new Howling Commandos is going more of the way of, we'll say, like, to make it easy, like classic movie monster kind of thing. There's like a werewolf, there's like a Frankenstein, we got a zombie. I think in that scenario, I guess it makes a little more sense to have a mechanized creature, with, basically his brains being downloaded from somewhere. But
I mean, isn't
I
that
can see why that's irritating though.
isn't that a DC repeat of, what did DC have, Monster Squad or something
Yeah,
like that?
right. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
So let me ask you, you and David, what's your guys' feeling on, and David, I don't know if you're a big Marvel fan who
Yeah.
So what's your guys' feeling on the use of Shield in this whole kind of post Marvel Cinematic Universe comic book world, where now there is this need, I guess, that they feel to go back and like retcon and inject new historical touch points of like Shield's past history.
yeah. Go ahead, David. I'll let you answer that one first.
Yeah, I mean, I'm possibly not the right, but I've never been the biggest Shield fan, to be honest. I like my superheroes more super, and I do like the idea of a spy organization in the superhero world. It's just never. And my best friend is going to hate me for this because he's a massive Nick Fury fan and he loves the Shield, so he'll be cursing my name when he's listening to this.
Yeah.
So no, it's an important part of the Marvel universe, and it's obviously got a massive boost. I mean, it's great in the movies and the TV show. Yeah. So it's an important part, but for me, it's not my favorite part of Marvel. So
yeah. I guess for me, Gascles, you know how big of Marvel, especially MCU fan I am. I like the show because obviously it's more current and it has more to do with the MCU as a whole. But I mean, to me, I don't really feel like they need to go back and try to establish it. I mean, I like it for what it is now, I guess you could say. I don't really feel like I have to know exactly where they came from and that they had some kind of hand in this historical event or they did something with this historical event. I think they're just kind of It doesn't do a lot for me. You know what I mean? I'd rather know what they're doing now.
Right, and I like it. I like it as a device. I love it how it's used in the MCU. That they're kind of the bridge they're the tie that binds.
Sure.
All of those movies together, and I like that aspect. I like the concept of the show being ongoing and how they continuity hop from an episode into the show into the movie that's releasing, and then you come back into the show and it's they allude to events that happened in a movie that released. I wish they could get some of those Marvel MCU actors, more of those MCU actors, like not just like the secondary supporting characters to show up on the show for cameos. But every once in a while, I feel like they're like getting really close to jumping the shark with some of the stuff they do with Shield, when they try and build in a little too much of past history that doesn't really line up with our perception of what Shield was in the past.
Sure.
Yeah.
I hear you. Awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, but real quick, did you guys see? I'm sure it's been all over the internet, but did you guys see the little teaser trailer that Disney threw in there on Instagram with the big reveal on it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very excited.
Was this for Star Wars?
Yeah, the Force Awakens.
I did not. I'm definitely. I mean, we're what now? 3 months from the movie releasing.
Right.
just over 3 months. So I've definitely got the full blinders on now, trying to keep myself.
Okay. All right.
You feel free to talk about it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, absolutely. I really just didn't have time to delve into it
Yeah.
this week, but when I see those things pop, I definitely don't chase them down.
It was a real short thing, but of course, from the first teaser trailer, we see that really cool scene of Kylo Ren in the snow when he lights up his lightsaber. You know, well, apparently on the other side of that scene, he's facing off against someone, and they revealed who he's facing off against, which could mean a lot of different things. But from the looks of it, it's John Boyega's character Finn, and he's holding a lightsaber. So either that means
Is this
Finn
is this the African American who's always running out of breath and sweaty?
that one. So either that means the whole story is going to center around Finn becoming a Jedi, or I don't know what else. But from the looks of it, that's kind of what it is.
I'm just glad they give that brother a freaking lightsaber, dude. That man's the hardest working dude in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, man. So it looks like that.
But the next scene is going to be him lighting up the lightsaber and then just turning around and running.
All out of breath again, all sweaty.
Yeah. Go.
Yeah, so that was the big Star Wars news this week. But yeah, so we'll see exactly what that means. But I think that's going to be one of the big, obviously, plot points of the movie.
He better be the most in shape Jedi that's ever existed.
Exactly.
Like, I'm wondering if his special force power will be like endurance running or something like that.
So he can run incredibly long distances with breaking a sweat. All right, guys. Well, that's about going to wrap it up for this week. Gasklees, you want to give us a final thought real quick and tell our listeners where else they can see you on our fine website?
Read Hank Johnson, Agent of Hydra. I have to look at the name because I frequently I know it's Hank, but I'm like, is it really just Johnson? Like, is it that typical a name? Read Hank Johnson, Agent of Hydra. I would also say, and keep an eye out for. I have initial impressions after my first 2 hours of playing I Shall Remain, a new indie PC game that just released on Steam this week. It's kind of a top-down, slightly isometric action RPG set in a survival horror setting. So keep an eye out for my initial impressions of that game.
Awesome, man. Cool. And what about your other show? Are you still doing your other show, man?
What's your issue is going to be getting transformed. I apologize for any of those cast members who are hearing this for the first time because I haven't had a chance to talk to people about it because I've been moving. But we're going to take What's Your Issue and actually we're talking about converting it for the site and having it be kind of more of a twice weekly discussion thread amongst the staff that we think we're going to try and post on the site because we want to kind of pull back the curtain and let reveal to our readership kind of some of the deep and really interesting conversations that the staff has on topics. But podcast wise, we're also going to take that discussion topic and move it to being like a one-on-one podcast with myself and a rotating panel of guests. So
excellent.
I'm hoping we are able to pull that together and pull it off. It's still in the planning stages and. There's still kind of a lot of those parts moving around, but that is the plan.
Awesome, man. Always big things working behind the scenes at GWW. We're always wanting to bring you the best and the coolest and the greatest. Thank you, man, for being on. It's always awesome talking to you, brother. Mr. David Golding, once again, tell our listeners what they need to check out and where they can find you.
Yeah, well, you can find Infested Earth on Kickstarter. Just type it in and it'll come straight up. And you can find me on Twitter at David Golding Art, and I post lots of commissions and sketches, and obviously news and artwork from Infested Earth is going to be on there. So yeah, give me a follow.
Awesome, man. Thank you again for joining us all the way from the UK at butt-ass ungodly early.
Yeah, it's I'm wide awake now. It's 5:25 here now, so the sun's coming up, so I'm wide awake. Yeah,
excellent. The sun's coming up with the GWW Capes crew. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah.
Thank you again, my friend. We appreciate it.
No problem. And can I just? It's the 28th today. in the
yes.
future here in the
Yeah.
UK, and that's Jack Kirby's birthday. So I just want to say
happy
happy
birthday, Jack
birthday
Kirby.
to the
Yes.
King of Comics.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for reminding us that. Yeah, happy birthday,
Yeah, no
Jack
problem.
Kirby.
Yeah.
who had some nice stuff in this month's issue of Shield. So there was a nice little snippet of the first issue with Nick Fury. So that's cool. So anyways, thank you, my friend. As
No problem.
always, you should, if you want to know more about what's awesome in comics, what's awesome in tech, what's awesome in the world of video games, you should be checking out the geekswithwives.com. It is our home for all the things that we love to talk about. Hopefully all the things you folks are passionate about, and there's constantly new stuff always going up on there. Reviews, spoiler casts, tech reviews, all kinds. I mean, us just ranting out about crazy stuff. Sometimes I throw things on there. It's crazy. It's wild. So keep checking it out, because we have a lot of amazing, awesome, talented people writing, reviewing, and bringing you what they love. Hopefully it's the stuff that you love. So anyways, check it out. As always, you can find us on Twitter at GWWCapesCrew. You can find me at Darth Sparrow on Twitter. Real quick, because I know I already talked about it on another podcast this week, but for our listeners, last Sunday I got to go to a small convention in Burbank, California. I got to meet another lovely, awesome person from the UK, the beautiful Miss Hayley Atwell, who of course plays Agent Carter in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, in typical Darth Sparrow style, I went as Tony Stark. You guys won't believe what I did. I said, I got to come up with something really funny, something memorable to tell Hayley Atwell, all right? So I walked up to her and I said, I heard you and my old man used to fondue. And she gets this really goofy, almost guilty look on her face, and she goes, maybe. And then she looks at me, and she's a beautiful woman, has that awesome accent like David over here. And she says, I could be your mom, And I started laughing. I couldn't handle it. I lost it. It was so funny. She just played right along. It's perfect. So, Hayley Atwell, you're awesome. We love you. I'm all about Team Carter in the Dub Smash War now. Sorry, Team Shield. You lost that one. But anyways, thanks for listening, everybody. This Thursday on August 27, 2015. Come check us out next week. Check us out on Twitter. And as always, we will catch you on the what? On the what? On the geek side. Boom.